For today's cup of coffee, we have youngest kid that has dental issues again.
Yes.
Not just on one side, but both sides. Because it's a matter of being balanced. And it's like, God love him.
Both of them decided to say, fuck you.
Yeah. So we don't know what's going on with that.
Okay.
But it's going to be Tuesday before he can see somebody. So that's a long period of time when you've got dental issues.
Shit.
So he's trying to self-medicate with a vape. It's a CBD vape.
Mm-hmm.
And that may have to be replenished over the weekend.
Maybe.
So, anyhow, he's lots of Of course, he does that a lot of times anyhow.
It's mainly because it hurts to talk in a way.
Right. Well, that's okay, because this one, it may be a whole lot of... We may need those pain sounds for today's subject.
Like I need more of that right now.
Well, they can be authentic.
Fuck your authenticity. I want synthetic.
Anyhow, this
Fuck
one...
your organic. I want synthetic.
This is not for the squeamish. If you're one of these people that medical things bother you, then you might want to skip this cup. But it's actually fascinating. It really is. And, yeah, it's fascinating. This is about, if I can say it right, it's trepanation, but it's trepanning. Or trepanning.
Trepanning.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's drilling holes in people's heads.
I haven't seen that word before in my life.
Well, yeah.
Before you showed me. I just knew that it was...
Trepanation, yeah. That's usually what we have known it by. And
it's like they drill holes in people's heads.
And then there's trepanning. It's got the PH instead of the P there. And that just means that it's the medical version of it. They decided that they had to change the letter to make it a little more feasible. I don't know, more professional. Anyhow, trepanation is a surgical intervention. This does come from Wikipedia, and I will put the link in the description box, in which a hole is drilled or scraped into the human skull. And the initial perforation of the cranium exposes the dura mater, which that is a very hard fibrous covering over the brain. And that's to treat health problems related to intracranial diseases, also to release blood buildup from an injury.
Loves it.
It can also refer to any burr hole created through other body surfaces, including nail beds.
Wow.
You know, like you mash your finger. And it's like you can drill a hole in there and it'll relieve the pressure on it.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's disturbing.
No, it's not. This is old school. This is old school.
If I drill a hole in my nail.
Well, it's better than being in severe pain. Okay, and in ancient times...
I live in severe pain.
In ancient times, these holes were drilled into a person who was behaving in what was considered an abnormal way. Now, that's very subjective there. To let the evil spirits out.
Okay.
Yeah. That was pretty commonplace. Maybe we need to go back to that. It says evidence of trepanation has been found in prehistoric human remains from Neolithic times onward. The bone that was trepanned was kept by the prehistoric people and may have been worn as a charm to keep evil spirits away. I think it'd just be like a trophy. Yeah.
Yep.
And wonder if you can order that off of Wish.
What?
Pieces of skull.
It's not going to be a real bone.
On Wish, it may be. You never know. And evidence also suggests that trepanation was primitive emergency surgery after head wounds to remove shattered bits of bone from a fractured skull and to clean out blood that often pools under the skull after a blow to the head. Trepanations appear to have been most common in areas where weapons that could produce skull fractures were used. Yes, it's called a bludgeoning. It's called,
pretty much.
Today it's called a baseball bat. The primary theories
Bang, bang.
for the practice of trepanation in ancient times included spiritual purposes and treatment for epilepsy, headache, head wound, and mental disorders. So it was sort of a panacea. It could cure a little bit of everything. It's like, come here, let me drill a hole in your head. Yep, anyhow.
Oh God, there goes Mama. Hide everything. Hide the people. She's got the drill again. She's got the drill again. She's got the bat again. Oh God.
Hey, at least
someone go get Mama.
At least it's the corded drill so you could outrun me.
Exactly.
I don't believe in those cordless drills. All right. Now, in the contemporary use of the term...
That 100-foot
extension cord.
Yeah, that 100-foot cable might come in handy.
They use that same term in modern eye surgery, and then we discussed as far as drilling a hole in the fingernail or the toenail. Yeah. Now, in abdominal surgery... Joe, this one's for you, sweetheart. A trephine incision is when a small disc of abdominal skin is excised to accommodate a stoma. Although the abdominal wall does not contain bone, I hope not, the use of the word trephine in this context may relate to the round excised area of skin being similar in shape to a burr hole. So that there's actually quite a few reasons, not just the stoma. There's other things, drains, different things like that they would use that. They just particularly, those drains.
Those drains.
Oh, yeah. It's a matter of, flashback to have to emptying the bile bags. That's always fun. Now, prehistoric evidence.
Love that.
Trepanation is perhaps the oldest surgical procedure for which there is archaeological evidence. Well, yes, because if it was in a soft tissue, then it all went away. So, and in some areas may have been quite widespread. Archaeological evidence has been found of cave paintings. And, of course, human remains. Yes, this happened often enough that they painted on the cave walls about this.
What the fuck?
Maybe it was a pastime.
What the fuck?
I don't know.
Am I hearing this right?
And it says at one burial site in France that was dated to about 6500 BCE, 40 out of the 120 prehistoric skulls that had been found had trepanation holes. So this was not a rare occurrence.
Oh, shit.
Maybe it was like a party trick or something on the weekends. We don't know.
Hey, look where I can stick my finger.
And it says that, of course,
Can you poke your brain?
That there were signs of the skull structure healing. Now, this is the funny part, suggesting that many of those subjected to the surgery survived.
No shit.
Yeah.
What?
It even says, once again in France, somewhere between 3400 to 3000 BCE, they found a cow skull that had been trepanned. Wonder if the cow was possessed.
What?
I think it's what it was. I think that the cow had been possessed. Now, in more recent times, this stuff still goes on. It wasn't just a yesterday thing. It's not just old school. It says that...
Who the hell is punching holes in people's skulls?
Lots. It's not that rare. It says that in Kenya, I think is the name of it, that it was actually... That's in East Africa, that the procedure was filmed in 1958.
The fuck?
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then all the way back, you've got, like the Hippocratic Oath that says you're not supposed to do any harm. So it was Hippocrates. All right. He gave specific directions on the procedure.
Okay.
So it's a how-to book. So I thought that was pretty cool.
For dummies.
Hey, you ought to go through there. They had some interesting treatments, and it was probably more effective than some of the ones today. And, of course, they did this. I went out through the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. And then we get to today.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And then we've got the prefrontal leucotomy. And that was the precursor to the lobotomy.
Bullshit.
And for those of you, we did a couple of videos back. I think it was in October. It was called Mad Scientist, where we went into a lot of these things like the lobotomy. We've discussed that. We actually went into depth on the lobotomy.
Yeah.
And, of course, that was performed by cutting a trephine hole into the skull, inserting an instrument, and destroying parts of the brain. You know, now, to a degree, they did that back in ancient Egypt during the mummification process because they didn't think that the brain had any use.
They turned it into soup.
They did, and it would just sort of drain out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I think that it depended on the individual whether it had any purpose or not. And, okay, this was later made unnecessary, the destroying of the brains during the leucotomy. Because that was, you had the development of the transorbital lobotomy. Yeah.
Wow.
Because this is so much more advanced than the cave people.
Totally.
I think so. And it's for, you know, you got to
poke with a stick and see what happens.
Spike inserted through the eye sockets, which was an ice pick and a mallet.
Let's poke with a stick and see what happens.
And trepanation is a treatment used for epidural and subdural hematomas and surgical access, to other neurosurgical procedures. And that is one of the things, because if somebody has a hematoma and then the cranium, the skull, then there's no place for anything to go unless you drill a hole. So that's a good thing that they can do that. And modern surgeons usually use the term craniotomy for this procedure because they don't want it to be associated with what happened before. It says, however, unlike our ancestors, craniotomy must be done after diagnostic imaging. So that means that you've got to have a valid reason to be drilling holes in people's heads medically.
Yeah, good.
You've got to be able to put that down so that the insurance will pay for it. It says, unlike trepanation, the removed piece of skull is typically replaced as soon as possible. So you can't wear it as a necklace. Trepanation instruments nowadays are being replaced with cranial drills, which are now available with diamond-coated rims, which are less traumatic than the classical trephines with sharp teeth. Which they were very much like those drill bits that you use to drill holes. Seriously. Mm-hmm. That, or it was like the old augers, the hand crank drills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun times.
Loves it.
So the new drills are smooth to soft tissues and cut only bone. Now, additionally, the specially designed drills come with a safety feature that prevents the drill from penetrating into brain tissue. I wonder how it does that. It's got an emergency stop on it. So
it must have a quick
it's got a chain stop on it. Along with antisepsis and prophylaxis of infection, modern neurosurgery is a common procedure for many reasons other than head trauma. Now, I will tell you this. If you want an infection or something, especially sepsis, go to a hospital.
Yeah. That's the quickest way to catch it.
Absolutely. Because they have not learned that fresh air and sunshine disinfects.
Exactly. But they got to keep them somewhere.
Well, yeah. In ancient times, trepanation instruments were less complex and were commonly made out of flint, obsidian, or harder materials such as stone knives, and later with metals such as bronze and copper. Now, I will tell you that they actually make obsidian scalpels today, and that they say that they are sharper and more precise than the steel ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I think it's pretty cool. Additionally, the procedure was done by shamans or witch doctors, utilizing something called a tumi, which was a ceremonial knife in early Peru, sharpened seashells out of the South Pacific, a trephine drill, a bronze knife, etc. The Greeks and Romans were the first to have designed medical instruments that were used to penetrate the skull. I'd say the Romans had stuff that would penetrate any part of a human being in various and sundry ways.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's some brutal people. There's a lot of brutal peoples back in the day.
Yeah.
As many as 5 main methods were found for trepanation. Now they've changed it for trepanation instead of trepanation.
Make up your damn minds.
Yeah. There were the rectangular intersecting cuts, scraping, utilizing an abrasive instrument such as flint. Now I want you to sit there. These people were not anesthetized. Now, can you imagine that sound? That sound. Circular grooving.
That hurts me.
Boring and cutting by a circular trephine or crown saw, and burr hole done by drilling several.
It's getting to you too.
It's burr hole done by drilling several circular holes closely together to create a space, and then to cut and chisel the bone between the hole.
Yeah, it took a while, but we got there. Yeah.
No, it was just the way that it was written, and I actually made it more succinct than what he had. Now, the scraping method was found to be the most common in prehistoric times. So, over time, the skin will, it will grow back over the puncture site. And it helps if you put a couple of stitches there and stuff. But the hole in the skull will remain. Well, yeah, if you take it out and don't put something... Don't stick your finger there. Right, don't poke them in the head. The location...
Like the soft spots on the babies.
Right. But can you imagine that you know this and you get pissed at somebody and you just kind of flick them? It's like, dude, boom.
That can do some major damage. Oh, God, that's a critical hit.
The location of the trepanation on the skull varies by geographical location and period. Common locations are the frontal and the occipital bones. In most cases, trepanation was a one-off operation, with only a small percentage of the trepanated skulls having undergone more than one surgery. Well, now, let's face it, there's only so much surface area. You can only do that so many times before the thing just collapsed.
Take the whole back of the skull off.
Well, that's like, have you seen some of these pictures where some of these people have, like, been shot?
Yes.
And part of... There's nothing
there.
There's
nothing.
And it looks like they look like a Picasso painting. They really do. Now, it says
it's tragic that it's true.
Well, it's interesting,
That's
it
one
is.
way to say it.
I've used that word because it's one of those that it just...
What else
it's a catch-all. It's a catch-all. Risk. They have to give you the risk factors on having a hole cut in your head. The procedure comes with severe repercussions such as direct or indirect preoperative complications, which include increased damage to the brain, infection, blood loss, hemorrhage, and potentially death due to the trauma as the skull's protective covering is compromised. Don't get shot in the head. The operation leaves very minimal space for error and a high incidence of mortality if the dura mater is penetrated. Additionally, there is high risk of infection if the operation is conducted with contaminated tools or improper sanitary wound care.
Oh, no.
Now, I know we've all seen pictures where these people have had really just shit luck, is all you can say, that... have had things, have been impaled through the head with certain things. One of them, there was this guy that he was a construction worker or whatever, and had a drill, and he fell. Oh yeah, through the head, right up through the head. He survived. There have been incredible stories of survival, people that you would never think that had objects that went through their skull. That's a bad day, I'll tell you. That makes for a bad day.
Yeah.
Then there's such a thing as voluntary trepanation. Yeah. The practice of trepanning also continues today due to belief in various, they're saying, pseudoscientific medical beliefs or benefits. And
Yeah.
some people that are fans of this stuff claim that the results increase blood flow to the brain. Individuals have practiced non-emergency trepanning for psychological purposes. Yeah, that goes all the way back to letting the evil spirits out. I've heard that one. That was one of the main ones for this.
You gotta expel the demons.
Yeah, and a prominent view, a modern view, is by Peter Halverson, who drilled a hole in the front of his own skull to increase brain blood volume.
What?
Yeah. He was bored.
Fuck?
He was bored. One of the
Take a
most
sledgehammer, there you go, dude.
One of the most prominent advocates of trepanning was Dutch librarian Bart Hughes. And in 1965, Hughes drilled a hole in his own head with a dentist drill as a publicity stunt. Okay, where did he get the dentist drill? But that's a very tiny drill. No, give him a Black & Decker. If he's going to do it right, you know? And Hughes claimed that trepanning, again, increases brain blood volume and thereby enhances cerebral metabolism in a manner similar to cerebral vasodilators such as ginkgo biloba. Well, why not take the ginkgo?
Fuck it. He just wanted an excuse. He just wanted an excuse to drill a hole in his head.
He was attention seeking.
Yeah.
I mean, he truly was. But now, when you think about, all right, you've got skin, you've got bone, and the length of the drill bit on a dentist drill, that's basically a nothing. So, yeah, he was an attention seeker. That's all it is.
That's a Dremel. Not a drill.
Oh, no, the Dremel could have done some damage on him. All right, it says these claims are unsubstantiated by research. Hughes and his girlfriend also made several comic books in the 1970s which promoted trepanation. I would say that drugs were a factor in this.
More than likely.
In a chapter of his book, Eccentric Lives and Peculiar Notions, esotericist John Mitchell cites Hughes as pioneering the idea of trepanation in his 1962 monograph, Homo sapiens correctus, which is often cited by advocates of self-trepanation. Well, now, how can they say that since they've been doing this since cave idiot times? He didn't invent anything. Okay.
He didn't invent shit.
Among other arguments, Hughes contends that children have a higher state of consciousness, and since children's skulls are not fully closed, well, now, that only closes up before the age of 1, I do believe, unless that there is some kind of, now there is a birth defect where the sutures are fused at the time of birth, which is very dangerous for the mother and the babies because those plates are designed to cross over each other during the birth process. And so those children have to have like cranial surgery almost immediately, because if those are fused, the brain can't grow, it can't develop, and the child often dies.
Yeah.
So when he's saying this, he's talking out of his ass because he doesn't understand the physical development of children. Mm-hmm. But we knew this because he's going around drilling holes in his head.
Let the idiot do it.
Anyhow, it's one of those natural selection.
Free the drill.
He's saying that one can return to an earlier childlike state of consciousness by self-trepanation. Yes.
Yeah, you're turning yourself into a vegetable.
And further,
dumbass,
by allowing the brain to freely pulsate, Hughes argues that a number of benefits will accrue. I like that term, the brain pulsating.
I wish I didn't. I wish I didn't hear that.
Mitchell quotes Joey Mellon's book, Borehole. At the time the passage below was written, Joey and his partner, Amanda Fielding, had made 2 previous attempts at trepanning Mellon. The second attempt ended up placing Mellon in the hospital, where he was reprimanded severely and sent for psychiatric evaluation. God, that line, that whole thing was worth reading, that line. Reprimanded severely.
Yeah.
It was a good bitch slap and somebody going, dumb ass. Go
Yeah.
Oh, and then after he returned home, Mellon decided to try it again.
Oh, you
so
didn't learn
he
his
learned
lesson.
nothing. He describes his third attempt at self-trepanation. Quote, after some time, there was an ominous sounding slurp and the sound of bubbling. I drew the trepan out and the gurgling continued. It sounded like air bubbles running under the skull as they were pressed out. I looked at the trepan and there was a bit of bone in it. At last, end quote.
He drilled into his brain. Brain.
Fielding also performed a self-trepanation with the drill. I hope these people did not have children. I truly do. Well, Mellon...
Like, it's physically making me... It's making me physically uncomfortable listening to this.
Now, Mellon shot the operation for the short film Heartbeat in the Brain.
Did he end up killing himself?
No, that was the girlfriend that was doing the self-trepanation, and he filmed that.
And she killed herself?
No, which was long thought to have been lost. Portions of the film can be seen in the documentary A Hole in the Head.
Oh my God.
I think we'll pass on that one.
Oh God.
Mitchell also describes a British group that advocates self-trepanation to allow the brain access to more space and oxygen.
Y'all are fucked
Other
up.
modern practitioners of trepanation claim that it holds other medical benefits, such as treatment for depression and other psychological ailments. Now, I have heard that before. I have. In 2000, 2 men from Cedar City, Utah, were prosecuted for practicing medicine without a license after they performed a trepanation on an English woman to treat her chronic fatigue syndrome and depression. I don't think that, I have tried many things over the years, but I don't think no. Let's not be drilling the holes in the heads.
No. Is that the slurp?
Yeah, I thought that was disturbing. And it was disturbing. But it is, that is common in ancient times for releasing evil spirits. That was why they would do that. And the fact that it was only, the skulls only had 1, possibly 2 times on that, it makes you wonder, was it effective? Sit and ponder it for a while.
I don't want to think about it.
People do worse things to themselves today. And they do. They do the same thing. But they use medical excuses for a lot of it.
For some reason.
And I wonder if, seriously,
I'm like, I don't want to think about it.
I want to know as far as the success rate of then versus now.
I don't give a fuck. I don't want to think about it.
Everybody be grabbing the Tylenol and the Advil at this point.
I need to go take something.
Well, this one was not hardcore, but it does have that paranormal element. It's got a strong, odd element to it. But as far as having one of those trepanning kits, they did have those. And where I've been looking at some of the antique medical equipment on eBay and such, it would be interesting. It would be interesting to have.
If you find one, it's going to be expensive as well.
Oh, I'm sure. Because doctors and stuff, they usually snag those up. anyhow, if you've got
For
experiences,
their own experiments.
well, their office is just oddities. If you have experiences with paranormal, supernatural, if you've had encounters with UFOs, aliens, cryptids, if someone has drilled a hole in your head, if you've got local, regional, family myths, legends, send us an email to cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com. And you all have a beautiful, blessed day. Hopefully pain-free.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like, share, comment, and most of all, subscribe and click that little notification bell or button, whatever is there. Click it to get daily notifications of our daily uploads and whatever. Maybe Mom will make a community tab too eventually.
Hey, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
So
that's a cool idea. We'll see you on the
until
next
next time.
Bye.
Yip it.